Guess what? One of the most romantic holidays in the modern world didn't start with flowers, chocolates, or candlelit dinners. It started with violence, with executions, with lotteries, with names pulled at random. And somehow, we turned that into heart-shaped candy. Valentine's Day isn't ancient romance preserved through time. It's chaos that got rebranded. And once you see how it happened, the whole thing feels a little less magical and a lot more human. This is Guess What?, where the things we think we understand usually turn out to have much stranger pasts. Long before Valentine's Day existed, mid-February was already important, just not for romance. In ancient Rome, this time of year was associated with Lupercalia, a multi-day festival held around February 13th to 15th AD. And calling it romantic would be generous. Lupercalia was about purification, fertility, and survival. It involved rituals meant to protect crops, ensure healthy births, and ward off bad luck for the coming year. Priests sacrificed animals, stripped down, and ran through the city, striking people with pieces of hide. Women would sometimes deliberately step forward, believing it improved fertility. This wasn't candlelight and poetry. This was organized chaos with religious approval. But here's the important part. February was already culturally loaded. It was already associated with pairing, reproduction, and bodily vulnerability. That mattered later, because when the Roman world began changing, the calendar didn't reset. Old meanings had to be overwritten. As Christianity spread through the Roman world, it ran into a recurring issue. People did not want to give up their festivals. You can ban gods. You can ban temples, but you cannot easily ban traditions tied to the calendar. So instead of erasing pagan holidays outright, early church leaders often did something more effective. They absorbed them, reframed them, gave them new figures and new meanings. Lupercalia was awkward. Public nudity, fertility rituals, and sanctioned chaos didn't fit cleanly into Christian theology. So it needed replacing. And that's where Valentine enters the story. Not as a lover, but as a martyr. Here's the part people don't like hearing. There wasn't one Saint Valentine. There were likely several individuals, potentially dozens, named Valentine or Valentinus, living in different parts of the Roman Empire in the 3rd century AD, all executed under Roman authority. Their stories overlap, their legends blur together, and none of them are reliably romantic. One common version describes a priest executed during the reign of Emperor Claudius II. Another describes a bishop imprisoned and killed for helping Christians. Later embellishments claim Valentine secretly performed marriages, but that detail appears centuries after the fact, with no contemporary evidence. Oddly enough, the two men primarily associated with being Saint Valentine were both executed on February 14th. What we can say with confidence is this: Valentine was associated with defiance, faith, and execution. Not courtship, not romance, not chocolate. By the late 5th century AD, Pope Gelasius officially declared February 14th a feast day for Saint Valentine, effectively placing a Christian observance directly over the old pagan festival window. The date mattered more than the person. For centuries, Valentine's Day remained a minor religious observance. No hearts, no cards, no grand gestures. The romance came much later. In medieval Europe, people believed that birds began mating in mid-February. This idea shows up repeatedly in poetry and folklore, especially in England and France. Geoffrey Chaucer, writing in the 14th century AD, is often credited with one of the earliest literary connections between Valentine's Day and romantic love. In his poems, Valentine's Day becomes a symbolic moment of pairing, longing, and emotional vulnerability. This wasn't history, it was metaphor. But metaphors are powerful. Once poets connected the date to love, the association stuck. Slowly, culturally, Valentine's Day shifted from martyrdom to matchmaking. By the 17th and 18th centuries AD, Valentine's Day began to take on recognizable modern traits. People exchanged handwritten notes, tokens of affection, poems, promises. But here's the key shift. Participation became expected. Valentine's Day stopped being about choosing love and started being about proving it. By the 19th century AD, mass-produced Valentine's cards entered the market. The Industrial Revolution didn't just mechanize factories, it mechanized emotion. You no longer needed to write poetry. You could buy sentiment. And once sentiment could be purchased, it could be measured. How much did you spend? How elaborate was the gesture? Did you remember? Love became performative, not because people were shallow, but because modern systems reward visibility. This is the part no greeting card admits. Valentine's Day creates pressure. It separates people into categories: partnered and unpartnered, remembered and forgotten, celebrated and overlooked. It turns affection into a deadline. For couples, it tests expectations. For singles, it amplifies absence. For businesses, it's perfect. None of this is accidental. A holiday that triggers emotional insecurity is extremely profitable because reassurance sells. Flowers wilt. Chocolates disappear. Jewelry endures, at least symbolically. The holiday doesn't ask, "Do you love someone?" It asks, "Can you prove it on schedule?" Let's clear a few things up. Myth: Valentine's Day is ancient and romantic. Reality: the romance is medieval and literary, layered over much older rituals. Myth: it celebrates true love. Reality: it standardizes how love is expressed. Myth: it's harmless fun. Reality: it can be, but it also creates expectation, comparison, and pressure. None of that makes it evil, it just makes it human. Valentine's Day survived because it adapted. It absorbed religion, poetry, biology, commerce, and insecurity, and turned them into something socially legible. It gave people a script, and scripts are comforting. They tell us what to do, when to do it, and how much it should cost. In a world where relationships are uncertain, Valentine's Day offers structure, even if that structure is artificial. That doesn't mean the love is fake. It means the holiday isn't neutral. And once you know that, you get to decide how much power it has over you. That's today's episode of Guess What? If you enjoyed walking carefully through history with me, hit subscribe, because next time, who knows what we'll uncover. Until then, stay curious, and remember that love doesn't need a receipt.